In this video, we are going to talk about programmatic access, AWS CLI, and AWS rules. So let me click on add users here. Till now, we've been working on this password part where we create a password, username and password, and we use that to log into our console. But now what we are going to do is using this access key programmatic access, we are going to allow our backend servers connect to the AWS data center directly and gather information from them. Okay. So using this, what all is possible? We can call an AWS API, AWS CLI, AWS SDK, and other development tools. Only for that we can use this access key. Okay. So let me name my access key as access key, and next I'm going to hit on permissions. So it's going to ask me either if I have to add it to a group to give it permissions, or no, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach the existing policies directly. So I'll give my key administrator access, full access. Next, optional tags, I'm going to just leave it for now. Review, and okay, everything looks good here. I'm going to create user. Okay, so please do not close this yet, because once you close this, you'll not be able to see this secret access key again. So let's leave this window running here. And as we discussed earlier, we need some SDKs or backend APIs to make requests on our behalf to the server. So first what we'll do, we'll install AWS CLI in our mission. So I'm going to AWS CLI, I'll install AWS CLI Linux because I have a Linux server that's running. Install. Okay. Installing or updating the first link. I'm going to the first link which says installing or updating the CLI. So it's gonna be Linux. So what they're telling, they're just telling us to curl this link. So copy this link from our website. So I'm going to my Ubuntu machine. I'm going to just copy it. Okay. So it says command unzip not found. Okay, so they've given all the steps, but the second step has failed. So what I have to do, okay, so the third step is also not found. So first I have to resolve the unzip AWS CLI not found by installing this apt install, okay, install install unzip. Okay, my unzip is now installed. It's just a package which uncompresses the compressed file. So let me execute the same command, unzip CLI. Let me see. That's great. So it's uninstalled already. Now first command is successful, second command is successful. I'm going to execute the third command, sudo /aws/install. Let's see how it goes. Okay, it says it's successfully installed, and if I do AWS hyphen version, I'll be able to see that AWS CLI is successfully installed. So now let me make a query to AWS service, and under the AWS I'm going to query IAM service, and I'm going to list my users. It says there is no credentials found. It is asking me to run AWS configure and configure the credentials. So AWS configure. The first thing it's asking me is the access key ID. So what is the access key ID? Let's again go to our IAM console. We have this user that we created. Copy the access key ID and paste it here. Next, what is asking me? It's asking me the secret access key. So let me hit on show and see the secret access key, copy it over and paste it. Enter. So it is asking me to choose a default region. So whenever I make a query from AWS CLI, it's asking me from which region would you be querying this from. So, or which region by default has to be chosen to deploy servers or anything. So what I have to do, I'm in Mumbai, I'm going to choose Mumbai. So for Mumbai, what is the code? It is AP-South-1. So let me enter the here ap-south-1. Format is going to be we can have JSON or YAML, so let's go with JSON for now. The output is configured. So let me again try to make the same query, AWS IAM list hyphen users. Now we got an answer. It says there is a user named access key present, a user named Jafar is present. Let's verify the same from our console. Now since we have already configured, let's close it. And then we have two users, access key and Jafar, and same is reflected here as well. So once we configure this AWS access key and secret access key, we need not, every time we log in, we need not again go ahead and keep on configuring the password. So one time we configure it, and we can keep on using it for the rest of the day. Okay, so this is the use of access key ID and secret access key and AWS CLI. See, and we can make backend API calls to our server. Okay, so now what we'll be talking about is we'll talk about AWS roles. There is something called as AWS roles here. So when do we use AWS roles? So here what I did, I'm trying to access IAM from outside the AWS data center, my Ubuntu machine, to the AWS data center. So my server does not belong to AWS, so that time we cannot use AWS roles. But let's consider a scenario where we are going to buy or rent a server from AWS. So let me open another console, and I'm going to go to EC2 and I'm going to rent a server from AWS here. Okay, in that case what I can do is I can use this roles to get authenticated, okay, into AWS without using a username or password or access key ID. So what I'll do, first I'll create a role. So for what I'm going to use, it is a service like EC2. So I've selected AWS service like EC2. Is it going to be EC2 or Lambda? It's going to be again EC2. For EC2, I'm going to create a service. So I'm going to hit on next. Here I'll again give this one admin permissions. So administrator access. So I'm going to hit on next. Role name is going to be EC2 role admin access, right? So it's the JSON output which gives us what are all we are going to do. And let me create a role. The role is already created for us. So let me go ahead and launch an instance. So what I'll do, I'll choose an AWS Amazon Linux in which AWS CLI is installed by default in it. So I'm going to choose this. Again, I'm going to choose free tier, 1 vCPUs, 1 memory. So this, I'm going to choose a default one. I'm going to have one instance. The thing what we have to make a change is, we'll scroll down a little bit and here we see IAM role, right? So here what we'll do is we'll go here and add our IAM role that we created. For example, EC2 role admin access that we created. And then let's click on add storage. Rest all, let's just give it default values. And I'll just choose an existing security group, which is should give me access to port 22 all over the world. Review and launch, and let me launch it. So I'm just acknowledging that I have this key pair with me handy and I've not lost it. Launch instances. So let's wait for this instance to get into running state. It's in pending, still pending, again pending. Let's wait for a few more minutes. Now it's in running status. So let me go to it and connect to it. So I'm going to use EC2 Instance Connect since it's an Amazon Linux. and I've connected to it. So let me try to make the query that we did in the previous scenario. AWS IAM list hyphen users. Wow, it's giving me an output. I did not configure a username, I did not configure a password, I did not do anything. It's all because I attached this EC2 role admin access to the server that I created. And I'm able to access it without doing any of these steps that we did. We did not give it a username and password, or we did not even do this step using AWS configure and give it a access key and access key ID and secret access key. Just by attaching the role, we got access to this machine. Okay, this is how we use AWS roles when both the services come under AWS itself. EC2 is an AWS service, IAM is also an AWS service. So in that case, we can use AWS roles.